Welcome everyone to our weekly Tuesday night Pauhana. It's something we've been doing now. I was thinking about how long we've been doing this, and I mean, really more than 2 years it's been going on. It just kind of kept going. So we're very happy to have with us today the Reverend Mykal Slack. We usually get right into it, Michael. We don't have a lot of rules. What I ask people to do, if possible, is to send me questions privately in the chat. It helps me to sort of organize questions and keeps you from having to read the chat. But we also want to accommodate all kinds of communication facility and all kinds of. So I also am fully in the camp of blurting. If that happens, we just go with it.
Yes.
And just asking questions however we want to ask questions. So
that sounds great.
Does that sound good?
So
the first question I always ask at Pauhana with a guest is who are you and what do you do?
Hello. There it is.
There it is.
Who am I? I am someone who has to manage a really loud refrigerator on this level. That's what I'm doing. I don't know if you can hear it. It is a strange sound, and I don't know why it happens.
I thought foghorn, but you say refrigerator, and that's fine.
I could call it a foghorn, and it would work. Yeah. It would be appropriate. So hello, everyone. It is so good to see you. You all look so fresh and awake. It is 6 o'clock where you are. It is midnight here. I am Reverend Mykal O'Neill Slack. I am Wilma Slack's son, Megan and Monica's big brother, grandson to Elijah Sr. and Louise and Wileen.
TJ isn't speaking. Yes, TJ is in this meeting.
And Henry Lester, all of whom are deceased, but ancestors who I call on regularly. I am a daddy to Zora, who is about to turn 6 in July. She is 5, going on 15. She has a lot of opinions, and she's very clear about everything. She knows everything and is afraid of nothing. She will say this routinely. So if you meet her, you will likely hear her say something like that. She's great. I love the way she exists in the world. I am spouse to Lelena, who you will likely also meet. And, most days I get to engage in really beautiful virtual ministry as the community minister for worship and spiritual care for Black Lives of Unitarian Universalism. I've been in that role since June of 2017, and it has been a deep joy and love in ministry for me. I've really enjoyed it. I've been in Unitarian Universalism. Maybe I'm answering more questions than I need to. Let's see. Who am I? I'm a UU who feels deeply connected to Buddhism and Christianity and African spiritualities of different kinds. Goodness, I'm a Southerner. It took me a long time to feel good about saying that, but it's really true. I really am. And I'm really grateful to be back home. I left Georgia. I grew up in Georgia. I left Georgia in 1996 to go to law school in New York. And I was gone for 20 some years. And I got back in August of 2020. It's probably one of the best things I've ever done. So that is
why is it one of the best things you've done? Tell me about the feelings or why.
I left Georgia very clear that I would never return. Very clear. Yeah. I was a Black queer kid in Georgia, and that was hard in the 90s. And so I felt very clear that I would never be back here. But what I left, it wasn't I wasn't aware that I was leaving it, but I was leaving an opportunity for a deeper relationship with my family that I honestly didn't think I would ever get, and I have it now.
Yeah.
And I you know, I was I'm 6 years older than my younger sister and 8 years older than my youngest
Oh,
sister.
wow.
So they had an amazing relationship with each other, and virtually no relationship with me because I was just too old. But it's been a pretty amazing thing to build relationships, to become friends with my grown-up siblings.
They're awesome,
I'm
aren't they?
like,
Isn't it great?
wow, like you guys are grown. Like you have whole jobs, friends,
Yeah.
places you like to go.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
It's wonderful, Ramona, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah, my sister just texted me today. I'm so glad I have you. She meant to text her friend, but she got me. It's fine. But but I'm just glad she likes someone that much, you know.
Right.
Really,
Exactly.
I affirmed her and her liking someone. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's
And you know, another thing I think that is really special about it is that I had not fully come into myself when I left,
mm,
and became a whole person away from Georgia, the person I actually always dreamed I could be, which is pretty magnificent. And I get to be that person with my family,
mhm.
and it's stunning. Like I have a kid, I have a whole child who I get to help grow up, and she loves my mother,
Yeah,
and she loves my sister. It's incredible. There's nothing better
yeah,
than watching them love on each other.
great.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, one of the things you started out talking about was who you are to other people, and one
Mm,
of one of our guests, who one of our friends of our congregation, asked that question a lot. Who are you to one another? Can you,
mm.
is that something that resonates for you when you think about church, when you think about community or relationships? I mean, it just came to my ear and it made me kind of think of our friend who asked that question a lot.
Mm. Yeah, oh yeah, it definitely resonates. You know, I don't, I tend to believe that it is really hard to be in the world, to become who we are meant to become without the people who are impacting that.
Mhm.
You know, and I've had some pretty remarkable relationships, just beautiful people. Um, Family that was given to me and family that I got to choose. um, and they have had deep influence in my life. And I think that is incredibly important in the context of all kinds of communities, and including and especially, you know, places that we call church or places that we call our congregations or our communities. You know, how we show up, um, how we're able to hold space, hold one another. We take that, we carry that stuff around with us, whether we know it or not, whether we
I'm
like it or not.
Yeah, well, you don't gotta like it, you just gotta do it.
You just gotta do it.
Oh yeah, when you talked about where church is or what that looks like, it's hard for me not to, for me sometimes it's baseball, like it's sort of like my question is just, where's church for you when it isn't in a building or when it isn't in a church, or what comes
Mm,
to mind? Like, is it nature? Is it Zora? Like, what's church for you?
what's church for me? Church for me is outdoors. Outdoors, any place where there are trees, where I can feel the wind on my face. Church is in front of my altar.
Hmm.
Um, you know, my altar is right over there, um, and I am kneeling in front of that altar quite a bit, um, and that feels like church to me. It's really it's been a really interesting journey to watch people's idea of church shift in the midst of the pandemic. I ended up doing a lot of webinars about online church, like virtual church, because blues worship services have always been in this platform from the beginning.
Yeah.
So I was doing this in 2017, and it is church, y'all.
Yeah.
It is just stunning what happens in that space.
Yeah.
It really is. And when in 2020, when folks are starting to do this for the first time, they're like, there's no way this is gonna feel good. There's no way this is gonna be church. Like, just just wait. Just let it be. Just let it be what it needs to be. I promise it can happen. Don't hold on to it too tightly.
Yep.
But so, a Zoom room like this can very easily feel like church to me.
Yeah. That's great.
Yeah.
You can you say something about the beginning and the progress of your ministry with Black Lives UU? I mean, having that work 3 years before the pandemic came, and I know that there's like the worship element, but
hmm
when you say you're the minister for Black Lives of UU, can you just say more about what the shape of that's been over the last 5 years or so?
Yeah, sure. It began as finding some really intentional space to listen to people, to listen to people express what their needs are,
Mm,
what they haven't discovered and had hoped to find in Unitarian Universalism. Um, you know, Folks show up often saying, "Hey, I want a space where I can be my holy UU self." And part of that means being my whole black UU self. And that stresses people out sometimes because this is not, my life is not theirs. And, understanding people's Unitarian Universalism across various differences is not necessarily something we get taught to do well. And so, initially that the ministry was about developing programming that met those otherwise unmet needs. And so we spent a lot of time talking to people about those things, just dreaming a little, and creating, some spaces for creativity and innovation. And our daily affirmations came out of that. Um, we were doing meetups. We were connecting people in cities to new people who were coming into those cities. It's like folks aren't necessarily going to walk into a predominantly white church, but they will very easily connect with another black person who they know is UU, if we help make that happen. So we were doing those kinds of things in the beginning. Worship we've always been doing.
mhm.
And ultimately, much of my work has been holding the space for worship. So I tend to lead worship or co-lead worship with other people, um, and also lead the pastoral care ministry. There are blue chaplains who do that as well in my absence, um, and also a lot of organizing spiritually grounded
Yeah.
events. So I organized our revival, which happened in 2018, um, and was also one of the lead organizers for the Harper Jordan Memorial Symposium, which happened in 2019. So a lot of that. Everyone on staff for Blue is also on our organizing collective board of directors. So we make a lot of decisions and just engage in a lot of strategic planning around where the organization is going to be in 3 years, 5 years, 10 years.
Yeah.
So it's quite a bit. In the pandemic, my life didn't change much, right? Because I was doing virtual ministry already, um, but it just increased. It increased.
Yeah.
In 2020, I don't know, I probably did maybe 8 or 10 funerals and memorial services, right? Like in a period of like 3 months. It's been really intense, um, because virtual spaces where people tend to go now. So folks want more of what we were already doing. So it has it has been quite a journey, and I'm grateful for it. All kinds of really neat things come out of our work together as a community. We do a lot of community conversations, book salons, we do book studies, all kinds of things. And we have a Facebook group that has 1,100 people in it, and a lot goes on in that group.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing.
That's
amazing.
great.
Yeah. And we just published a book, which is great, and we're in the process of starting to get things ready for the second one.
What book?
So,
Hawk your book.
oh goodness, let's see. You know what? I actually have a few copies of it, if I can get to it without knocking a lot of things down. Yeah, it's Blue Notes. Blue Notes, an anthology of love, justice, and liberation, which is a kind of meditation manual that I and Takia Noor Amin, who is also a member of the Organizing Collective Board, we co-edited this book. It's a cute little book, and it's got music in the middle of it.
Nice.
Which is really cool. And the song that I wrote is also in here, so it's really special. And we got to work on that during the pandemic.
Congratulations.
So, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's really awesome. I made my mother cry. Showed up at her house and was like, "Here's my book," and she's like, "What are you doing?" I didn't tell her what was happening, and so I wanted to surprise her. It was pretty special.
Did you dedicate it to her?
I dedicate everything to my mother.
That's the correct answer.
Everything. I wouldn't be without her, literally.
Yeah. Yeah. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Normally, I'll just kind of keep the conversation going in sort of a ask you a bunch of questions thing, but you're going to be with us in July and August, and
yeah.
I'd love to open the room for you to ask questions. If there's things you're looking for, resources you're trying to find, or anything like that, you have a very, very well connected group of people at your disposal, and it would be a shame to wait until like 10 minutes before the hour to start opening the space for you to. So is there anything you need or want or are hoping for that you want to ask this group about, or anything like that?
Oh my goodness. I am I tend to be one of those folks who loves to be open and to the surprises, to the things that I'm not expecting. And so maybe I'm curious about, what are some things that I might expect? What are some things that I might expect when I arrive? What's it like being a part of this community? I love hearing from people about what they think about being where they are. Like that's the kind of stuff I get excited about. Like what are folks excited about at this place where I get to be for a couple of months? I'm safe.
Hillary's already sharing some of the important sweets that you need to try.
Oh, what is this? Tell me about this.
Hillary, do you want to talk about malasadas? I mean,
tell me about malasadas.
You're picking the most important thing anyway. So Hillary,
of course.
Hillary, I think you've already you've already put it. So let me add you here. Do you want to say something about malasadas?
They're amazing, and if you maybe cut them a couple times, it might reduce the calorie count.
Yeah,
but they're
I see.
They're you can get them plain. I like the custard in the middle, but you can get dobosh, custard, or halpia, which is like a coconut.
Oh my God, what is this? Is it a pastry?
It's a Portuguese donut. Although I've heard it's linked to Portugal is somewhat tenuous because anyway, anybody want to? It looks like Richard has something to add.
It's similar to beignet. Do you know beignets?
Yes, I do.
It's a big round ball of a donut with
lots of sugar, and
that is magnificent.
They're awesome.
They're all over the street corners.
I'm upset about this.
You pick them up
not at all.
Malasada trees.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we've covered one important institution. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Hillary.
Excellent.
someone who's so now Reverend Mykal is being very good and talking about coming into a community and everything, and we're talking already about sweets, which is fine. But is there anyone who's come into say First U recently who wants to say something about what it was like coming into a new environment or a new church? I know I'm looking at a few people who've joined us in the last 2 years or 3 years on here. I'm not going to pick on anyone, but if someone in that range wants to say hi and talk a little about your experience. You want to, Ramona? Hi.
Hey, hey.
Really, 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 really happy to meet you.
Oh, thank you. I'm really, really, really happy to meet you too.
You had a really wonderful experience? Yeah.
It's so good.
Ramoda's
excellent.
Ramoda's aunt is a UU minister as well.
Oh, cool.
Yes.
Very cool.
Barbara Prose.
I know I know that name. Yes. Excellent.
The associate minister in Tulsa. Yeah.
Yes, that is right. I have spoken to her many, many times. I've been also Tulsa quite a lot of the years, actually. At least 2 or 3 or 4 times, and that is just not a part of the country that I tend to go to. But
I'm really looking forward to being your friend.
oh, I'm really looking forward to meeting you and being your friend too. Thank you so much.
TJ can give you my number. Yes, I will do that. He's gonna have everyone's number, but I'll make sure he has yours.
Yes, for sure, for sure.
Because you're really lonely.
Do you really want it?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
And then then he can call you?
Oh,
because of your condition.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's right.
I'm really educated about everything.
You're worried about everything?
I'm really educated.
You're really educated about
Educated, yep. Yeah.
Well, Ramona was one of our favorite guests of our Kalhana when we played his interview that he interviewed Ram Dass. And
oh, excellent.
Yeah. And then we heard about all of Ramona's activism, and now he is on a special state commission to improve voting accessibility across the state. And he was appointed by the governor and then voted in unanimously by the Senate. Right?
I'm just
bragging on you, Ramona.
That is remarkable work. Thank you so much for doing that work too. There aren't enough folks doing that work. Thank you.
Yeah. Wonderful. Thank you, Ramona. We're gonna get some other folks want to talk about coming in, joining, and tell Reverend Mykal about what he might be in for, or just coming to Hawaii. Who's arrived to Hawaii most recently? I think, let's see. I mean, Nan Porterfield, you lived here before and came back somewhat recently. I think of everyone on the call, you might be the most recent, but I'm not sure. But if anyone else wants to speak up, I'm not going to call anyone out. Okay. What's that? What do you do when you're
we,
In a week, in a given week?
yeah,
So what's your week like, Michael?
My week, let's see. That's a really good question. Um, my week looks a lot like uh, making sure I'm clear about the calendar for the week relative to looking after our lovely Zora. Some mornings I'm up with Zora and getting her ready for school, and sometimes I'm not. And so being clear about which mornings I'm up and which mornings I'm not, and which afternoons I'm picking her up,
Really?
and which afternoons I'm not. All of that. My week includes usually some worship prep and also some pastoral care time. I meet with Blues staff once a week, and our entire organizing collective board. We also meet once a week. We've been doing a lot of organizational sort of restructuring and revisioning lately. So a lot of my weeks these days have involved just some sort of development work. Just thinking about what does my role need to look like in 5 years? Do we need to add to this? Do we need to add to staff? Those kinds of questions. We're doing a lot of exercises right now to help us get clear about those kinds of things. I'm also making dinner and breakfast and oobleck with my kid. Do folks know what oobleck is?
well,
I do. Cornstarch,
love
water, and green food coloring.
that is it. That is it. I make a lot of oobleck for my kid, who loves science, and just other kinds of projects. We keep pretty busy around here. Um,
Great.
yeah. Oh yeah.
So one question that Jill and Mike have is our congregation of, depending how you look at it, members, between 100 and 120, total community about 150,
Okay.
small or large compared to what you are used to?
Ah, that's a great question. That actually is on par with what I'm used to. Um, perhaps, honestly, perhaps a little bit, just a little bit smaller. Every congregation that I've served in person, like actually in the space, has been anywhere from 250 to 500. Um, um, Blues community is unique, right? In that it is virtual. So, you know, some services we might get 30 or 40 people, and sometimes we get 160 people. It really just depends on the season and what's happening. But in person, in terms of serving communities, it's a little bit smaller than what I'm used to, which I actually really love. I appreciate, I really appreciate smaller communities. I feel like there tends to be a different vibe. Folks tend to really know each other and understand each other in a way that is harder to navigate. It's just harder to do in larger communities. So yeah, I was looking at some of that information and feeling really excited to be in a smaller community.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you were talking about church in the world and other places and nature, you may know this, but you are coming to the right place for that experience. So
I know.
yeah.
I know. I've actually I was in Honolulu once before in my life. I was there for 10 days, and it was really impactful on my body and my spirit. It was really lovely, and I'm really appreciating the opportunity to be back there. I didn't know when I would ever make it back, so I'm glad it'll be sooner rather than later.
That's great. And you're going to be you're pretty close down by the water, by the zoo, right? Where?
Yeah. I'm gonna be staying on what is it? Sierra Drive, which isn't that far, or somewhere near there. I remember seeing that road. Um, so yeah, it's about 6, 7 minutes from the zoo,
Great.
and maybe 8 or 10 minutes from the church.
Great.
Yeah,
Yeah, we'll have to
yeah, it
talk
worked out
about
really well.
some coffee shops that are down there.
Yes.
You do coffee? Okay.
I do.
All right. Well,
I do good coffee. Is there good coffee?
yeah, you want to go to ours coffee. We can do this offline, but ours coffee on right off Montserrat. Yeah, you're gonna be
Yeah,
fine.
yeah. Great.
Richard asked the very good question. How do you best come to know a congregation?
Oh, yes. In some different ways. Some of that, to me, it feels like it's a mix. It's a mix of just really engaging people in ways that have meaning to the people, like not just in ways that I might enjoy, but really being with people in the ways that they feel good about existing in the world, um, and chatting with folks, really paying attention to how folks as a congregation sort of respond to things that are happening in the world and within the context of the community. There are all sorts of ways to get to know a congregation, and usually it takes a willingness to just be there, to just be really present, and really aware of what's happening. Doesn't mean that you have to have your hand in everything. Doesn't mean you have to be involved in everything. But just having an awareness of what is going on, and being willing to ask questions. Not being afraid to ask maybe harder questions. Like if I notice something, maybe it's worth asking about. I think all those things help.
Yeah.
Help a person get to know a community.
Yeah. I've heard before someone say that like you really get to know a community when you sort of hear about their fights, or like you really know a family when you go to Thanksgiving, Christmas, Thanksgiving or Christmas, and there's real fighting. Have you done any work with conflict transformation or transformative kind of work through conflict? Can you say something about that? Or
Yeah, a little bit. Some of the I'm thinking in particular, there's a congregation that I got to work with where there was some pretty deep struggle, and much of that really was actually about them not really wanting to have a fight. They're actually really struggling because they had a really hard time actually naming what was hard. Recognizing that, well, if we say what's hard, then there's some folks who are not going to like that. Well, yeah, that's human nature. That's okay. We all don't have to agree with each other. But really being able to kind of hold space for differing opinions and different ideas is really a part of what community is. I think folks often use I think folks often use beloved community as a phrase like incorrectly. I think a lot of folks use it like, oh, we want to become the beloved. We want to become the beloved community. We want to be able to be kind and loving and caring for one another. Like, no, that's not what King was talking about. King was actually talking about the fact that we're all different and there's going to be conflict. It's like, how do you hold space recognizing that that is just true? Like, how can we all be here together and have differing opinions and want to go forward on different paths? like how do we do that? And that's part of what conflict transformation work is about, like acknowledging that there can be multiple truths, multiple pathways, and how can we hold one another and ourselves in that in a way that doesn't do harm, or it does the least amount of harm.
Yeah.
Thank
you. Yeah, I did a little, I've done a little bit on a little, one of these or three of these about the beloved community, and I had to break the news, that Dr. King said that the beloved community is about reconciliation and repentance, the re words. And so, but those are words that I feel like a lot of words, Unitarian Universalists gave up some theological language a long time ago. Can you say something about reclaiming words like that and other words that you think we need to be a movement together, to be a community?
I was just having this conversation with a colleague recently, and we were talking about two words, spiritual and faith. That there's such a deep struggle called referring to our understanding ourselves as a faith. That word gets used, I think denominationally. The association uses that word a lot. But folks struggle, and some of that struggle is like what we have attached to those words. And so extracting the stuff that has been harmful from the words themselves and being able to reclaim them, I think really matters. I say this to people all the time. When I use the word spiritual, primarily what I'm talking about is connection. A connection to self, connection to other people, connection to that which it surpasses our understanding, but that sort of helps move us and shape us in the world. Connection to the earth. Like when I say spiritual, that's what I mean. But in the beginning, when I was arriving in Unitarian Universalism and was using that word a lot, there was a lot of pushback. You can't use that here. You can't say that here. Like, sure I can. I'm you.
Yeah.
I get to use that word. Because ultimately what happens is we push people away from what might ultimately be really powerful and beautiful for them. There are folks who are very clearly Unitarian Universalist and don't show up in spaces because of, the policing that happens, for lack of a better phrase, around how people engage their faith and engage their spirituality. And so I think it really matters. And again, this gets back to the, connecting across difference. We're not all going to say it the same way, but we don't have to. We're not going to understand it in the same way. We don't have to. If love, justice, and liberation is the ultimate project, if that's what we're going for, how we get there is how we get there. And each of us might get there differently. And so being able to stay open to how we might express ourselves in that way, I think really matters.
Yeah.
I think there might be more of us still around if we were doing more of that.
Can you say something about your own sort of, I don't know, spiritual genealogy or your own theology, like where you are today, where you kind of came from, just a little bit of some spiritual journey for folks so they kind of, where you're at?
Yeah, sure. I always go back to my grandmother. My grandmother, Wileen, who died in 2007, was my mom's mother. I loved my grandmother, Wileen. She was my favorite person on the planet. And she used to say something to me. Let me tell you about her just a little bit. She was a primitive Baptist, okay? There in South Georgia. She was in church every Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday, and Sunday. Right, just about.
Yeah.
Around Christmas time, yes. But she was in church all the time. There were Bibles all over the house. And every now and then you might catch her reading one. But she wasn't proselytizing. She didn't talk about going to church much. She would say all the time, the best way to honor God is to love yourself, to love people, and to love the earth. She would say it all the time. And I held this somewhere inside of me. And it made so much sense to me. Like the best way you honor whatever divine presence, whatever source of love and light matters to you is to love yourself, to love other people, and to love the earth. Yeah. I was like, that's actually pretty universalist, Grandma. Good work. She knew nothing of Unitarian Universalism, and I didn't either at that time. But it fueled some things for me, and helped me feel connected to some things that I might not have felt connected to. And so, she identified as a Christian. Most of the people in my family did. And so whenever I went anywhere, I was going to Christian church. I struggled. That's a nice word. I struggled with some of the theology, but I really felt connected to a brown skin movement building human who believed that it was possible for people to do good and to be good in the world. So I kind of carried that with me and didn't think that it would have particular meaning. I went to college, I went to law school, I was a lawyer for 6 years, and ultimately left law practice because I felt called to ministry. I moved very quickly into a Christian church because it was what I knew, recognizing that I had the power to shape that and mold that in a way that would make sense to me. And I was in MCC, Metropolitan Community Church. So that was my church. That was the church that I was initially ordained in. And that was a pretty powerful experience. So I didn't carry with me a lot of the really hard stuff, because the Christianity that I was really connected to was very queer. And, it was a very different kind of experience. But ultimately, I started to grow into my own mindfulness practice. So then I started reading more and understanding more about Buddhist practice and Buddhism. I was like, wow, these two things actually don't feel terribly separate to me. And started reading a lot of Thich Nhat Hanh, and folks in some of my MCC spaces, they struggled with me a little bit.
We're gonna save him. We're gonna save him from this. Sorry.
We're gonna start right. And it was like, as queer as it was, some spaces were actually very, very conservatively Christian, in terms of the theology. And I decided to make my own way. They ultimately ordained them, God bless them, into my own ministry, and I started doing a lot of work in congregations of all kinds, to help them become more welcoming. That was my ministry for the longest time, and just continued to cultivate my own spirituality in a way that made sense to me. And so when I found Unitarian Universalism, or when it kind of found me, it's like, oh, yes, it is. I can ask questions here. I can become more of who I can become, and that can shift and change as I come into my own. Like it felt like home. It felt soft, and soft and just pliable. Like I could kind of wrap it around myself, and it could get shaped as I became myself. So that's been sort of my journey over time. And I am starting in very recently to think more about African spiritualities and ancestral worship. But that is a very new journey for me. But I'm feeling more and more connected to it. So I'm trying to honor that. That feels nice.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I know it's
absolutely.
It's almost 1 o'clock there, and we're talking about fine points of your your spiritual underpinnings and your things like that.
The good news is I have, over the course of the pandemic, gotten very good at taking naps, because some days it was just hard. It was hard to do much. I was like, you know what? I need to honor what my body tells me I need to do. So I took a nap earlier, knowing that it would serve me.
So can we switch gears to a little more fun stuff? If someone was gonna look at your Netflix queue, what would Netflix tell you the next episode is ready for you to watch? What 2 or 3 things is Netflix telling you is ready for you? You don't have to be totally honest, but give us an idea.
You know what? The things that would be in the queue for me are things that actually are not on Netflix.
All right.
And ask me how I know. They would not be on Netflix. They would be on Hulu.
Okay.
And Disney Plus.
All right.
So, This Is Us.
Okay.
Oh,
You love it, Ramona? Yeah, us too. That's some good writing.
This Is Us. The writing is stunning.
Yeah.
It really is. And it's about to be over. Actually, I think tonight was the last episode. Don't tell me if you saw it. I haven't seen it.
It's because everyone's picking off the writers. It's one of the most phenomenal experiences of these amazing gifted writers being taken to these other projects. So
yeah. Oh yeah. So This Is Us. and on the Disney Plus channel, The Mandalorian,
All right.
because I love Star Wars.
Okay.
I love everything about Star Wars.
I was gonna ask if you're Star Wars or Star Trek, so you've made it clear where you stand.
I am
It's fine.
Star Wars all the way.
I always say
really true.
it's Star Wars for capitalists and Star Trek for communists. Sorry. But really, if you're on the Rebel Alliance, then you're sort of against like anti-capitalism. Yeah, yeah.
Right, exactly.
So I won't ask, I'm assuming you're not a Sith Lord or something.
No, I'm really not.
Important question in the chat. Does Zora like Bluey on Disney Plus?
She loves Bluey.
All right.
She can't get enough of Bluey. It's hard some days. Can we, when you start to hear the theme song in your head, even when the kid isn't around. But Zora, she loves role playing. She loves singing and acting. And when she is home, that is typically what she's doing. So she's either singing Beyonce at the top of her lungs, or she is pretending to be someone from some TV show or movie and expecting us to also become characters. So, it's always an adventure here.
Having a real life improv class every day at your house. Okay.
The Alliance Theater does children's summer camps, and she did an acting summer camp last summer, and this summer she's doing musical theater camp. So she's gonna, she's gonna be acting, singing, and dancing. She's gonna be doing it all. It's gonna be amazing.
For those of you unfamiliar with regional theater, Alliance Theaters literally won Tonys for their as a regional theater, but that's where Dreamgirls started. That's where like some amazing stuff. A friend of mine became an actor, a famous one, because he saw Jennifer Holliday pre-Broadway in Dreamgirls as a child and decided, well, I can't ever do that, but I'm going to try to come close.
I'm going to do the best I can.
I'm going to come closest to that as I can.
Yeah,
but so that's amazing. So she's going to be at the Alliance doing that. That's great.
Yeah, she really is. Yeah, she really is. And can I just tell you, she is so excited about coming. She is so excited.
Do you want to tell everyone what Zora is going to be celebrating while she's here?
Zora is going to be celebrating her 6th birthday on July 12th. Her favorite goddess is Pele. And this was true before any of this. She is fascinated by volcanoes. So she's like, how many volcanoes am I going to get to see? I don't know. We will figure it out. I promise.
It's a safe promise in Hawaii.
It really is. It really is. So she's very excited. She's like, am I going to get to meet people? Am I going to get to talk to them? It's like, sure. Yeah. We've always, it matters as a brown-skinned little girl in the world that we live in, that we remind Zora at every turn that her voice matters, that she has power, that she has body autonomy, like all these things. We've been talking to her about these things when she was very small. And so, one of the things that has actually, I think, come as a result of her being clear about her power and who she is in the world. She will come up sometimes on the chancel wherever I happen to be, if she's there, just to hang out. Like, she just like comes and she'll just stand next to me. Like, everything all right? Yeah, I'm good. I just wanted to okay, cool. So don't be surprised.
No,
walking up.
That won't surprise anyone, since for the first 20 minutes the kids are kind of have free reign up front by the pulpit on these spree spree
Excellent.
Candy. We have these pillows that are shaped like spree candy that we kind of arrange and stack. So yeah, she'll be all good.
That's magic. Thank you. Thank you in
One
advance.
of our colleagues preaches with, or did, I mean, now her baby's much older, but had to kind of hold the baby because it's the only way the baby would stay quiet.
So that's great.
Jill did ask whether Zora has any pets.
Zora does not have any pets yet. She has begun to ask,
Okay.
but we have talked to her a lot about, being responsible for the things that you want. And like, well, if you want a cat or a dog, we have to talk about those things a little bit more. So not yet, but soon. I think it's coming. It's coming.
And then, so your partner's coming too for a little bit. People are just asking if your family's going to be here, what the schedule is.
Yeah. So Zora is coming with me first,
Mhm.
and Lelena will get here on, I believe we'll get here. Like I'm already there.
You're already here. Yeah.
Already here. She will get there on the 11th, I believe, of July. So we'll celebrate Zora's birthday on the 12th as a family. And I believe the plan is that they're going to stay for a couple of weeks. And so near the end of July, Lelena will head back with Zora. Zora starts first grade on August 8th.
Ah,
So they'll get back. It's early, right? It just felt so early to me.
that feels early.
It felt very unfair. It's like, I'm so sorry. We used to start school here at the end of August, but they don't do that anymore. So she'll get back in time for musical theater camp for a week, and then she'll start school on the 8th. So
Great.
yeah.
Any other, we're kind of getting there. I know you already, do you have any other questions for us? I know we may open that door a little bit, and then I did what I said I wasn't going to do and just peppered you with a bunch of questions. So do you have any questions, any other questions or resource gathering?
Nothing that I can think of. I was very happy to hear about, what are they called again?
Malasadas.
Malasadas. I was very, very
Malasadas.
excited to hear about that. I would, I will be happy to know all the great places where people go. Good food. You're going to talk to me about the good coffee. You know, yeah, I'd love to know more about those kinds of things. And I'm just looking forward to being there and spending time with all of you. It's going to be really lovely. And if I have a question, if I have a resource question, I will ask. And I trust Reverend TJ will farm it out. And if anybody knows something, that you'll get it back to me.
Oh yeah, for sure. For sure.
And I'm wondering, I guess, are there particular things that folks are hoping for in our time together, or anything in particular that you look forward to as part of summer ministry, in terms of what happens there?
You look forward to meeting him? I'm sorry, we gotta start again, Ramona. I'm having a hard time. Go ahead. I'm really happy to hear that you are. Into musicals? Oh, into Buddhism. I'm so sorry. I should have got that right away.
Yeah. Yes. You're a Buddhist also? Yes.
Good.
Love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear more about people's journeys and what's given people life in these times, because these are rough times, It'll be good to to hear what's feeding people and keeping us grounded, both in the context of the congregation and outside of it. Looking forward to all that.
One more time. What do you like to do when you're not doing anything? Not do anything?
Not do anything. Music. I love music. Love it.
What kind?
What kind? What kind? Goodness, right now I've been listening to a lot of jazz, a lot of John Batiste, just a lot of really good jazz I've been listening to. And I love all kinds of music. So depending on my mood and depending on the day, you're gonna find me listening to like pop stuff. I actually listen to K-pop thanks to my kid. I'm a little upset about that, but that's it's really true. But yeah, all kinds of stuff: hip hop, R&B, classical, you name it. Love music.
You love music. Yes, you do.
Yes.
Yeah.
It would be fun for us to hear your experiences as you find new things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm sure that this will be a wholly different experience from when I was there before, right? Like I was there before, primarily as a tourist, right? Like I was going there for vacation. Um, and this just feels different. I feel like I want to really get to know where I am, and feel more connected to the space. So, and I'm just in a different mindset than I was at the time. So I'm looking forward to it. I really am. I think the spirit of the place is probably going to have deep impact on me. So.
Yep. It'll be wonderful.
Mhm.
Richard's asking what instruments you play.
I play the drums.
Nice.
I play the drums. I had a dream as a child to be a drummer. And, not everyone here may know, my whole life story. But, I was assigned female at birth. And, there were certain things that little girls just didn't do, right? Play drums was one of those things. I was not encouraged at all. And in September of 2019, my therapist asked me a question that I really didn't appreciate, but I'm glad she asked it. She said, name one thing that you do that is just for you. And I didn't have a good answer. I really didn't. I didn't have a good answer. And she said, well, what I need you to do is go home and think about if there's one thing you could do that was just for you and no one else on the planet, what would it be? And honestly, to my own shock and surprise, the first thing that popped into my head was play the drums. And I hadn't thought about playing the drums in 20, 30 years. But it was right in front of me. And I thought, okay, I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do with that. 3 days before, and see, I don't think anything is ever random. 3 or 4 days before, my spouse had connected with a producer in Durham, North Carolina, which is where we lived at the time. And turns out this was the person who was going to produce a show that we actually just did a few weeks ago in Durham. He is also a remarkable drummer. He's been drumming since he was 4. His father is also a drummer. His father drummed for Luther Vandross. Like, that's how good they are, right? So she had just met this guy, and she was like, oh, Brevin's a drummer. You should message him. And so we did. And I left him a really long, babbling message about how much I've loved drumming since I was a child, and I've never done it. And here I am in my 40s, and I don't know if you have time for me, and blah. And the only day I can do it is on Tuesday. I left this long, ridiculous message because I was so excited. And he messaged me back, and he was like, Tuesday's the only day I have available.
Nice.
This is perfect.
Yeah.
And so I have taken drum lesson every week with Brevin Hamden since September of 2019, and I now have a drum set that I actually get to play whenever I want. And it is it just does my heart so much good to sit in front of this kit and just play and learn. So I'm a drummer.
We need to introduce you to maybe yeah, we need to introduce you to some folks when you get here. So we'll do that
Excellent.
offline.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Yes.
There's definitely
Yes.
some people you need to meet.
Yeah.
So
I'm not bringing my drum kit. I'm probably gonna
but
bring
that's
my
why you need to meet these
cajon.
people. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But also not to cut short, not to make it about what you have to do. Thank you for that story. I think drumming is it's what Stevie started on. If it's Stevie's first instrument, I'm good. Like after that, I don't need a lot
Exactly.
more explanations.
Exactly. So
but we
so,
are
yeah.
at 1:01 a.m. for you, and I'm going to release you to slumber now.
Thank you.
And I want to bless this time together that we've had, and thank you so much for the generosity of your time and spirit. I think people getting to hear some things about you and about us has been a wonderful, wonderful time and way to spend the evening. So
Absolutely.
thank you for that.
Absolutely. Thank you all for having me. It's really great to see your faces and to see some of your names. I'm looking forward to being more connected and to seeing you very soon. Time is passing quickly.
It is. We'll see you very soon. All right.
Absolutely.
Well, thanks everyone. Aloha.
Aloha.